of all of the operations from the Space Telescope Science Institute over the course of the next several weeks.
And the launch operations manager announced the acquisition by the Malindi station, as expected, for the end of the flight and the last part of the upper stage flight and the separation of the telescope.
James Webb is about 4 minutes away from separating from the upper stage. And again, at that point, it will be on its own. And again, those milestones that we discussed a bit earlier in the broadcast will begin to be followed carefully by the telescope controllers at the Mission Operations Center, the MOC as it's called, at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore. 1 minute of powered flight remaining. The upper stage continues to function perfectly. It's been a smooth ride for the James Webb Space Telescope.
Trajectoire nominale.
That upper stage was loaded pre-flight this morning with 15 tons of propellant for this long 16-minute burn. Now about 30 seconds away from upper stage cutoff. And we're standing by for upper stage shutdown and the cutoff of the upper stage engine.
Extinction ESC. Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
The extinction of the shut-off of the cutoff of the engine was confirmed exactly as expected, with the exactly expected altitude and speed and velocity. So now we have entered the coasting phase, the ballistic phase, that will last for a little more than 2 minutes.
And the telescope controllers in Baltimore confirming that all of the function parameters for the James Webb Space Telescope have been loaded on board the telescope. We are expecting Webb separation at the 27-minute 7-second mark here into the flight. Just over a minute from now, springs will gently push Webb away from the upper stage of the Ariane 5. As it moves further and further away from the upper stage, there'll be what we refer to as a collision avoidance maneuver.
Yes, Rob, exactly. The springs already will give some distancing, of course, between the two objects, between the telescope and the upper stage. And then the upper stage will leave the trajectory of the telescope and makes a special maneuver to pass the telescope and heads towards a liberation orbit and leaves the telescope on its orbit without any risk of collision and without any risk of pollution towards the telescope.
And we're about 17 seconds away from Webb separation.
Séparation Webb Space Telescope. Go Webb!
We do have confirmation of observatory separation. The James Webb Space Telescope, amidst applause here in the Mission Control Center, now taking its first steps in pursuit of cosmological discovery. It was a perfect ride to orbit. And all of the separation sequence events are running in good fashion according to the telescope controllers. And there is the view from the upper stage camera on the Ariane 5 looking at the James Webb Space Telescope as it moves gently away from its launch vehicle.
Fantastic pictures of this telescope.
Go Webb, go Webb.
Yes, go Webb.
Ironically enough, as we marvel on this view from the upper stage camera, this will be humanity's last view of the James Webb Space Telescope as it moves to its workplace about 1 million miles away from Earth.
Yes, you're right, Rob. Impressive, fantastic pictures. Yeah.
Now we'll be hearing shortly from the mission operations manager at the Space Telescope Science Institute, Carl Starr, who will be calling out the procedures that will lead to the deployment of Webb's solar array. And down in the fishbowl where there is jubilation, let's go to Raphael Chevrier of Arianespace. And before we do that, Raphael, a bit earlier than planned, but there is the solar array having been deployed. James Webb now has its array out as we stand by for confirmation that it is power positive.
Hey, Rob. J'entends pas ce qu'il me dit, Rob. Il m'a appelé ou pas? Il m'a appelé ou pas, Rob?
Non, il t'a pas appelé.
And there it is. There's your critical call. James Webb not only has legs, but it has power as it begins its journey and the commissioning activities to follow. And with that, let's go down to the floor in the fishbowl and Raphael Chevrier of Arianespace.
This is it. We have witnessed and the confirmation that Ariane 5 have safely delivered Webb into space. The upper stage is now being placed on a safe escape orbit around the Sun, but honestly, I've got to tell you that these images are absolutely incredible, and well, it may be the end of the mission for Arianespace, but it's only the beginning of the journey for Webb. It's now on its way to the Lagrange point. Congratulations to all the team involved in the flight. Really, there is no words to describe the immersion that is happening right now in the fishbowl. So all I can say is good luck, Webb, and bring us incredible data from the deep universe.
At that point, our sequence will continue.
Well, Raphael, congratulations on a perfect ride to orbit from the Ariane 5 out of Kourou here today. A view here in the Space Telescope Science Institute. Their work just beginning on a new era of scientific observations. Luce Fabregat, it was a smooth ride to orbit. Everything went by the book, almost like a simulation without any problems. And we thank you for all of your insight throughout the course of the day.
Thanks to you, Rob, and really a great achievement. I have many faces and names now coming up to my mind, and really you can be proud of what was achieved on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Thanks a lot to you.
Tremendous jubilation here in the control center. You're looking at Jean-Luc Voyer, the range operations manager. Quite a Christmas present for the world's astronomers as the James Webb Space Telescope begins its life heading towards deep space. With that, we're going to go back to the floor now to Katie Haswell. Katie, we did our thing. It's up to you now.
Oh my goodness, I just can't tell you. It's such utter jubilation here on the floor in the Jupiter Control Center. Everybody's been whooping with joy. The controllers here and the mission controllers jumping up, clapping, whooping with joy, people hugging. And I have to say, my throat was caught as I saw the glimpse of sunshine on Webb solar panels as we watched it heading out into space on its journey to its working zone. It's going to take about 6 months before we start getting our deep space observations from Webb. Of course, the teams have got a huge amount to do before we get to that, and our best wishes with all those teams in Baltimore. I want to get some reaction. Right now, everybody is talking and hugging each other because they're feeling so excited, and I totally understand that. Let's start, though, by going over to the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson.